This is general advice and my opinions only. CFDs are high risk, past performance isn't reliable, I may be long or short CFDs and stocks mentioned. Content may contain language that offends some viewers. LEVRD operates as corporate authorised representative 001318377 under AFSL 548573. You can find our financial services guide via the LEVRD website link in the show notes.
Righto, bag holders and stop loss owners, it is all bloody happening. We've got a gold deal in the Murchison. Bloody Liontown is up the other day. It's down again. It is all bloody happening. It is, as always, brought to you by bloody Canetoad, the only 3D drill hole visualiser software you need, AI powered, linked to the ASX. I've even bloody gone straight to the Peak Hill acquisition of Great Boulder here. You can check out all the surface drill hole data. Have a look at that in 3D. You look at the tenement. You can download all the data. What more do you need? Wamex, ComSec, everything put in one place for Canetoad AI. Right, let's get to the desk. We've got the main man, Brad Seward from GBA. Mate, it is all happening at the moment.
Matthew, Michael, mate, I think we're ahead of a couple of big conferences over East. I think everyone's getting ready to get some deals out of the way this week. The first cab off the ranks, obviously this Westgold Peak Hill transaction. I actually advised another party that was bidding into the process on that, so I got a bit of an understanding and maybe a bit of an understanding on sort of how it all worked and a bit of a different angle to what was initially kind of discussed, which is interesting.
This was a sales process that was going through Argonaut, I believe, and it was pretty heavily sought after. And the word was Westgold wanted 60 million for it. That's what I was hearing on the street. Westgold have divested it to Great Boulder for 58.3 million and a 1% NSR royalty. So that consists of 25 million in cash, which Great Boulder have to raise a big lick of cash for. 33.3 million in Great Boulder's scrip, which now takes Westgold to be a 19.9% shareholder of Great Boulder. They've got a 1% NSR, as said, and they've got an ore purchase agreement with Great Boulder, and they're looking to help Great Boulder get their Sidewell project up and going, which is effectively still waiting on a mining lease to be granted. So, mate, what's your take, Seward? This one was this is transforming Great Boulder, but it's hey, good for Westgold too, securing a lot more feed with everyone doing the work, I believe.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think, we sort of look at it, it's a really good example, Matt, of, I guess, what's happening in WA Gold right now. A lot of assets that were sort of non-core or stranded a few years ago are now, highly relevant. If they got ounces, great, and are on mining leases and have a processing pathway. I think obviously this is a bit of a transformational deal given the other stuff going on with Sidewell, particularly for Great Boulder. But mate, I think it's a really interesting deal. And I think we're going to see a few more of these, assets coming out that are in that plus 10-year mine life, assets coming out of the majors here. Obviously, I think that the transaction's pretty punchy. 60 million odd bucks for less than 500,000 ounces is expensive. Is really expensive, and I'm not entirely sure this was all driven by the Peak Hill transaction for the guys at Great Boulder. Obviously, it gives them a good processing agreement and sort of collaboration agreement with Westgold. But my understanding was that they were really keen on on working with someone who had their own processing arrangement for Peak Hill. So I'd be surprised if everyone's kind of thinking that Peak Hill's going to go through Fortnum. I just don't think that's the case as well. So mate, really interesting transaction. What were your sort of thoughts on it, Matty?
Yeah, well, it was interesting how I sort of compared the ore purchase agreements with New Murchison, because this one looks a bit different how they've worded it. I'll just find the where it is, because here it is here. So it's saying that for the ore tonnages to be delivered, there's a ranges for Fortnum, Bluebird and Tuckabianna. Logically, as we saw on the map, like it should, you'd think it'd be going to Fortnum, where like Peak Hill is sort of right near Fortnum up the top here, but there's and Bluebird's bloody ages away. I think there's a lot of, I like the exploration upside. Because I think Peak Hill's wasn't in their plan. It's been there for ages. I don't think they've had many drill rigs spinning on it. Great Boulder are obviously very geologically focused with what they've done at Sidewell, but they've been impacted by waiting to get the mining lease and I think like the native title agreement and everything progressed there. So this, I guess, gives them another area to go and punch. So I think they're going to be left with 20 million pro forma. But I think, will Westgold being involved now help progress with their relationships in the Murchison, help progress that mining lease being granted for Sidewell? I'm thinking maybe that'll get the ball rolling for them a little bit.
Well, I mean, I think, and I don't know what you've probably got better connectivity within the department than I do, Matt, but my understanding is it's just a huge backlog and all this stuff at the moment, and stuff that's sort of taking a couple of years to get up and running. There's now taking a couple of years to get up and running, used to take less than 6 months. So I'm not entirely sure if, hopefully that's the case for the guys at Great Boulder and for Westgold in particular, but I'm not entirely sure. And I think, Peak Hill, you're absolutely right. This is more about exploration there. And obviously they paid a lot for the ounce. I think it's, well over sort of $100 an ounce. And that was kind of what, everyone was being guided to by the great man Graham Tester at Argonaut. Was just a little over $100 an ounce. I think initially when they started this process late last year, early this year, the market's materially changed, and both the Valiant as well as the transaction they did with Canetoad has kind of shown that they can generate a lot of value, within the market at the moment if they can get these transactions done correctly. But it is a really transformative transaction for the guys at Great Boulder, and obviously there's a huge amount of sort of potential upside here for both Westgold as well as Great Boulder if they can execute on this. And I am really surprised they hadn't done a bit more kind of exploration work here at Peak Hill Westgold. Now, obviously, it's well and truly in the back end of their mine plan, but geez, it does feel like there was a few really easy. When I went over the data room, there's a few really easy kind of near mine opportunities and walk up targets, so they could have chucked a drill hole into a long time ago, mate. A long time ago.
Yeah, but I think it's same as the likes of Genesis, like as an example, like they've got that many assets, and they have to say, right, is this part of the next 6 or 7 priorities that we've got to attack? And if it's not, instead of leaving it stagnant within our business, we should offload it to someone else for them to do the work. And Westgold have done it with Valiant, with Alicano, with this asset, Peak Hill going to Great Boulder. Still got Chalice to come out down near Higginsville Way, which might logically end up in Alicano's hands as well. But I like, and how do you view it? Like they become like a higher all-in sustaining cost producer because they're securing feed via these OPAs, but they're making money so easily via these OPAs. Toll trading is the game to be in at the moment. It doesn't look good on the all-in sustaining cost, but they make money easily. No. It just gets sent to them.
Mate. Well, that's exactly right. It's making money. It's really good, high margin sort of work and easy for them to do. You just sort of throw it through an existing processing plant and send a check in at the end of the quarter or the end of the month. I think the guys have got a good business model. Westgold, for a high price environment, they've always kind of been higher cost miner, but especially in this sort of highly leveraged kind of gold environment that we're in right now, I think that this is the real strategy that's going to be working. I guess it's kind of a broader question, that I'd sort of pose to some of these bigger companies, and I hope it's being posed by a few of the fundies to these guys this week at the Macquarie conference. what gold price are you using moving forward, and how do you build a business around it? Are we talking about, we're going to see 67,000 Aussie for the next half a decade? And if that's the case, then you need to be looking at a lot of these other assets and potentially, really increasing the infrastructure. You're seeing infrastructure within the kind of gold region within Western Australia going for a hell of a lot more than we'd had historically seen it go for, Matt. And
Yeah.
I just think, my honest view is gold at 6,000 plus Aussie an ounce is going to be pretty standard for the next 5 to 10 years, is my kind of view. And obviously, take that with a grain of salt. I get paid to be bullish on gold, so I'm happy to be crossed up. I own a lot of gold stocks, PA too, but I just think these guys need to be investing a hell of a lot more into building more infrastructure in these old gold fields. And you can generate a huge amount of free cash flow, as we've seen out of the likes of New Murchison that you've really focused on. Kaiser Reef's a really good example as well. They've been generating a huge amount of cash off. Yeah, exactly. That's generating a huge amount of cash off a really low base. And then we've got a couple of other companies in the smaller end that are just going to generate their market cap and cash in the next 12 to 24 months. So I don't know, Matt. I'd be sitting here thinking, right, do I go on an acquisition spree, or do we start investing hugely in increasing the size of these mills, and trying to bring a bit more material in that we've already got in our exploration kind of portfolios for the likes of Westgold or the likes of Genesis. And I understand the trade-off between getting a transaction like this done and getting a sugar hit in your share price like Westgold have got, versus doing some hard yards that you're not going to see for the next sort of 2 to 3 years to maybe increase the size of the FGO for Westgold. But I guess that's why I'm sitting here and talk about it rather than actually doing it, Matty.
I wouldn't be surprised if they're going, based on this OPA, looking at where saying that, I'll bring it up here, that potentially 20 to 60,000 tonne a month to go to the Bluebird mill, which would indicate to me, I reckon they're going to probably expand Bluebird, and that's going to become more of a central processing hub for all these other arrangements they've got. But and the question, I'm like, right, do I own, looking at pro forma market cap of 167 with 20 mil in the bank, and still a mining lease to come, and a lot of exploration to go into Peak Hill. I'm like, okay, do I own Great Boulder or New Murchison? And there is a significant difference in, I guess, grade. Like the New Murchison's pumping out, high 2s to nearly 4 grams out of the open pit, and then you've got this Peak Hill one looks to be, what's it say, minimum of 1 gram from the open pit and 2.5 from underground. So I'm like, well, I think I'm more comfortable with New Murchison at the moment, where it's at with it's triple the market cap, but it's got 150 mil in the bank and probably be, heading towards 200 the rate they're going. But this is, and it might be one where this big cap raise they do, it's something you'll look at after Tranche 2 settles on it. So how are you looking at it?
Well, I don't disagree. I mean, the other thing you got to think about too with New Murchison versus kind of Great Boulder is that, obviously this has now become a far more institutionally relevant stock, that Great Boulder, because, obviously, they've got kind of a longer life now, and there's a bit more numbers behind it, and that kind of shows you, I think the market's happier to pay for ounces and for production. They've got an understanding of exactly what it looks like for the next few years, rather than sort of saying, trust us. And that's what we see. That's what we will see, I think, between let's take a look at Great Boulder versus New Murchison. That I think will be the real sort of game changer in terms of being able to get a bit more value today for further out production. But I don't disagree. I think if you're looking in the next 3 to 5 years, and you reckon they're going to have production for the next 3 to 5 years at New Murchison, you'd be almost you'd be almost dumb not to own shares, because it's just not valued in the share price at all.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way that I'm looking at it. And if you want to do, and today's market, because there's so many opportunities, I think is a real stock pickers market. And if you can do a bit more work and come up with a thesis around, hey, there's some good exploration ounces here under the pit, so we think this pit's going to go longer, and nobody's valuing that in the share price. I mean, there's another, and I do own stock PA, so just so everyone knows, but Win Metals is a good example of exactly that. It's like, you got a company that could be generating 20 to 30,000 ounces per annum over the next 3 to 5 years, with a bit of exploration success. I put a little note out today to my clients.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up later after we close this one off. I was going to give you the opportunity.
No. Well, mate, but it's more a case of, they just, there's no numbers out there, and until you can get the numbers out there, I think you've got to sort of trust the company. And I've done a little bit of my own work on a few of these stocks, and you mentioned I put in the same bucket there as well, Matt. Just around, the specifics on the next 3 to 5 years aren't known, so you can't really value it unless you've done the work, and you'll make a hell of a lot of money if you do.
Yeah, I'll bring this Win Metals one up. It's before we go back to close off the other one. This is, I guess, what they put out talking about the exploration results from. So, Win Metals was Widgie Nickel. So that was it had the Widgie Nickel assets. It had the Faraday lithium, and now it's obviously got the radio gold mine now. So it's got a bit of everything. I did find this. You might be able to explain this cross section of where the hit is. So the 0.3 meters at 314 grams that you can see, but then sort of down the vein, it's 0.3 meters at 0.3 grams. So it must be, is it a very nuggety ore body just based on that channel sampling there?
Yeah, it is, mate. It definitely is. It's a nuggety ore body, but it is very high grade. I mean, that's the thing to think about with the stuff is that, this was all mined with air legs. Did you ever do any air leg mining, Matt?
No, God, I picked one up before, tried to drill a hole. They're friggin' heavy. Far out. They vibrate the living shit out of you. I'd rather just hop on something that was hydraulically powered. It wasn't even that good at that.
Mate, that was one of my favourite things, jumping on whenever I did the underground tours, is grabbing a big air leg, because they are massive pieces of machinery, aren't they?
Heavy.
But this has all been air leg mined before, and I it'll be either air legged or really selectively mined moving forward as well. It's not by no stretch of the imagination, it's just it can be a massive mine, but there's some really high grade areas in this thing that they can mine it at. If you're getting 300 gram intersections for a third of a meter, geez, mate, there's a lot of gold in that system. And quite honestly, they haven't really given it the time of day and I guess the money in the ground that it should be given. But yeah, to your point, mate, it's not just, I guess it's not just another sort of drill results story. It's one of those ones that is going to be a project and will be generating free cash over the next little while. It's kind of drifted back with a broader market. It feels to me like these kind of areas, sub sort of 3 cents, you should be having a pretty big swing at it. Market caps demanding at these levels, and even if they need to raise a bit more capital to get into production, I'd see that as a really positive catalyst. Like a lot of these stocks have kind of bounced on the back of raising capital. Like OzMine's a good example. AUZ came out with a cap raise today, led by Ben Cleary at Tribeca, and stocks bounced pretty aggressively on the back of it. That's sort of the old, if you remember the old Sunrise clean tech project.
Oh, nah.
Scandium, cobalt, nickel. I did a couple $100 million cap raise for that thing when I was at Macquarie.
Ah, right.
And OzMine's is a very analogous story next door. It's kind of got a market cap of less than 100. And SRL's actually got $1.8 billion market cap these days. It's a Robert Friedland backed business, but mate, a lot of these things, if they get a bit of capital in this market, they're actually going up on the back of it, which means we are well and truly in a good little bull market here.
Yeah. I was just looking at Win Metals. Like I've been looking at it for a while. It keeps getting bought up because it's only, you look at it here, it's like 22 million market cap. But yeah, they're going to be producing free cash. But they must have. Do you think they're there's going to have to be a big lick of capital to come in soon. Like, it's pretty obvious that there have to be how much cash have they got on hand?
Well, they did a $5 million raise late last year, so they've got enough cash to get them, all the way through to FID. They could easily get a loan for, it shouldn't take them more than $20 million to get this thing into production, and they could easily get a loan for that from someone, obviously paying sort of credit card rates, but could get a loan relatively quickly, on the back of that, and only need to raise a little bit of cash. But yeah, mate, there's that, and then they've also got. Do you remember the old Butcher's Creek that was the main Australian asset for Meteoric?
Oh, nah.
Mate, yeah, they've got that up in the Pilbara as well. It's a few 100,000 ounces.
Oh, yeah. Is that the one near Halls Creek or something? Yeah.
That's exactly the one. And as a result, you've got Meteoric sitting there as a fairly substantial shareholder as well.
Yeah, right. Because I saw in the announcement today, like they talk, like logically is the map of where radio is, obviously north of Southern Cross, and you got Marvel Lock to the south. Like logically, is it going to get processed there? Because they were talking about potentially building their own batch processing plant, which introduces a lot more capital. Or are they struggling to sort of get a treatment agreement for their dirt?
Well, I had a good chat with Steve on that exact point last week, and look, I think Prize One is probably processing it through one of these operations you can see on the page there. Whether it's Marvel Lock, whether it's Southern Cross, I'm not entirely sure. I think that Steve's got really good relationships, having sort of been COO at Westgold for a long time and has been in the industry for ages. I think he will likely get some deals struck, and that will reduce materially the amount of capital required. But in worst case scenario, something to produce, sub 100,000 tons per annum, to process sub 100,000 tons per annum isn't that difficult. You can get these kind of like, I was actually looking at for another gold project that we're looking at doing privately, and a few of these kind of containerized things you can buy out of China are really, really, really cheap for the amount of dirt that they can produce, that they can process as well. So, and it materially reduces your sort of permitting requirements too. But I think that historically they try to go for a processing, a cyanide-free processing solution for radio, and it didn't work. So I think whatever they do will be pretty standard kind of CIL, whether it's kind of very small scale CIL, but it'll be a CIL tank, is my understanding. And the guys have gone the right thing about sort of picking up a bit of ground around this region as well. It's sort of fairly close actually to the old Golden Horse, because I know you've been following that story for a while, Matt. And they're just up the road for Golden Horse too. So you can't see it on that map there. I've tried to get Steve to put it on there, but he refuses to.
Doesn't want to give him any credit.
No.
Yeah, no, we'll wait and see. It's like, oh God, you couldn't see a batch plant being developed for a 100,000 ton operation. It's getting a treatment deal done somewhere, and I assume it'll be interesting to see what Golden Horse ends up doing with their project. So yeah, interesting region. I'll be interested to see once Great Boulder starts trading again. I'll go back to where we are. I just want to, because I could compare them to Alicanto in a way. Very similar setups. Alicanto obviously got the Mount Henry assets out of Westgold, but they've obviously got the Richardson Street tailwind with Parsons and everything behind it, so it's never short of promotion. But obviously you see what that shell did, went from bloody 68 cents up to bloody 2.36. It's pulled back to $1.30 now, so Alicanto's at a 230 mil market cap, and I guess pro forma for Great Boulder is going to be 167. So, and they've got close to 1.5 million ounces already combining Sidewell and Peak Hill, and then you've got the exploration potential at Peak Hill. So I'll be interested to see if Great Boulder actually does significantly re-rate on the back of this, which I don't know. I would anticipate it might on open, but it may not. it's a big lick of capital they've got to raise, but
it is a big lick, and there's kind of 3 brokers on it, which suggests to me either it was getting a little difficult, or they've got
more
a
want
lot
a piece of it.
Yeah, exactly. You can never really tell with those things. Sometimes it's a bit of a dog's breakfast when you got every man and their dog on a transaction. But other times it makes it actually work really well. But I suspect the Argonaut guys muscled their way in there, given the sell side mandate they had with Westgold, and then maybe Canaccord and Bells have got a historic relationship there.
Yeah, righto. To close it out, mate. Bloody, did you see Liontown on Friday up 12% on no news? It's now back down 8% today. It looked like, mate, I was like, oh, that was the only thing saving me. And like the chats were that it sounded like all the models got updated with the potential expansion because none of the broker models had expansion, and then the bots got involved, and the thing just started absolutely ripping. It's back down 8% today, but mate, lithium is hot to trot at the moment, and Liontown is bloody volatile. Current holding in mind, but it's pulled back a lot today. What's the goss on the desk?
Well, mate, that's exactly right. I think across the board, we're seeing more of what we saw on Friday for Liontown. It's just earnings upgrade momentum. It's kind of you see all these analysts sort of earnings revisions coming positive over the next little while across the board for most of these lithium stocks. Given we're trading well over $2,000 a ton at the moment for our board costs. So when that kind of washes through the market, you see all these green lights go from the quant funds and then just get bought up. And I know Liontown has been a consistent kind of short for a lot of people in the sector. And it feels to me like we've sort of pulled a bit of that back. I'll have a look at where the short interest is at the moment. That may actually give us a reason for why the stock pulled back so much, but it's definitely come off. It had a short percentage of well over 10%, middle of last year, and it's now sort of sub 2, which you'd think is just yeah, exactly, which I think is just really well and truly below it being a kind of heavily shorted stock again. So fair play to Tony O and the guys at Liontown. They've done a cracking job getting that thing into production and generating free cash. I've been involved in that one for a long time, and it's awesome to see mines get built and generating free cash flow and hopefully some dividends out to shareholders. It's what this is all about, isn't it, Matt?
That's it, mate. It's all just gone gangbusters since he come on LEVRD. Yeah. Mate, any other company that wants the same sort of treatment in their company, you better come on. It's Tony O's he is the poster boy for great company success post a LEVRD interview. So,
exactly right.
Right, mate, I'll let you go for that 1:30 hard knockoff, mate. Thank you very much for your insight as always, and we'll catch you again soon.
Thanks, Matt. Cheers, guys. Bye.
Good on you, mate. Righto, thanks, big fella. As always, thank you to the bloody main DOSH sponsor, Canetoad, for all the bloody support behind LEVRD. Go to the link in the show notes. Get yourself some toad. You bloody won't regret it. Cheers, everyone.